So let's take what just happened there. Let's say you're really familiar with the Allman Brothers-y major pentatonic ballady blues kind of thing. And you want to add some country flavor, or maybe you've got a gig coming up that involves a country ballad, and those kind of licks are something that you've defaulted to, and they get you by, but you're looking to authenticate that country sound, that delightful Southern sound. And you need to figure out what it is that you're missing in your seasoning to get things to sound right. You know that the harmony's there. You know that the major scale is what you're dealing with in these two genres. And you don't know what it is that's keeping your country ballad solos from sounding. So what I want to talk about is just some of the finer details. Again, with the hybrid picking, that's a big thing. You'll have to forgive me. Some of the bends are pedal steel bends, and my tremolo will pull my low strings a little flat because my tremolo floats. So the first thing I did to get myself in a country mindset with some of those pedal steel licks, those types of things come from a lot of the major bend, but when you get to the top, you're using these two fingers, middle and ring, to play the upper voices of the triad. And that's very unlike the bluesier style where you may have where a country guy might come into that solo. So a lot of the little sneaky things I'm doing is I'm grabbing a voice, a chord, and maybe moving a top note around and using those open strings to my advantage instead of playing something like I'd be. That's a very pedal steel kind of movement is those steel players will grab a chord, the top voicing, and then move something in it. It's like their knees, changing the levers. And that kind of helps you emulate a more Southern flavor when you're doing this style of playing in a slower context. Country guitar isn't always the it's like a lot of times you have the country playing that's more padding behind a singer. Things like just those kind of just simple lines that are all double stopped outs. Whereas like the blues guy or the classic rock guy might play, especially if you're familiar with like the Hendrix style of playing. You know, the country guy is more. And that's using almost exactly the same notes in the left hand, but bringing in that flavor in the right hand. And anytime that I've got those 2-note per string type of double stops, not playing them with a downstroke, not strumming them out, but playing. So you'd take some of those double stop ideas and make them more staccato if you're doing the country thing. And you're using that pedal tone. Whereas if you're doing the more Hendrixy or classic rock type of thing, it's a lot of downstrokes. If you have all the same notes all together, country guy will go. You know, it's in that phrasing, that rhythmic context, and choosing which notes ends up plucked versus and trying to get those rolls. That's a very country way of approaching a line versus maybe you know, if you're coming from that world of a very linear landscape, you know, the country guy's going to mix it up with, you know. So these aren't exactly note for note copies of each other, but I'm just trying to change as little as I can in the harmony to give the listener the idea that, like, oh man, that's a completely different guitar player. This is a lot of changing the fundamentals of the way you're playing without changing the harmony of the way you're playing. It's a bit of a challenge. It's a mental game more so than it is just where do you put your fingers on the frets, right? Because we're using a lot of the same notes. So when you're going to the country thing, I guess just to put a little bow on the top of the lesson here, when you're going to the country thing, you're going to be shortening the length of notes, using a little bit more staccato. And you're going to be using a little more pedal tone, like a blues player wouldn't play. You know, they would play, you know. And again, going to those double stops when you can. Give you a little more country flavor in some of the familiar territory that you've had with.